some mysteries should remain unsolved.
I never believed in ghosts. Not because I thought I knew everything, but because I always needed proof. Something real. Something I could see. Something I could touch. And for most of my life, that's exactly how the world worked. Every strange noise had an explanation. Every shadow had a source. Every scary story was just a story. At least, that's what I believed until I moved into apartment 307. Even now, years later, I still have nightmares about that place. And every time I wake up sweating in the middle of the night, I hear those 3 knocks. Knock. 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 The first time I saw the apartment, it seemed perfect. It was located in a quiet neighborhood just outside Chicago. The rent was surprisingly cheap. The building was old, but well-maintained. And after a difficult breakup and a stressful year at work, I desperately needed a fresh start.
The landlord seemed friendly. The apartment itself was small but comfortable. Nothing felt strange. Nothing felt wrong. If anything, it felt peaceful. The first few weeks were completely normal. I unpacked my belongings, settled into a routine, made friends with a few neighbors. Life slowly started improving. Then, the noises began. The first sound was so subtle that I almost ignored it. Late one night, while lying in bed scrolling through my phone, I heard 3 soft knocks. Knock. 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 I looked toward the wall beside my bed. The sound seemed to come from inside it. But apartment buildings are noisy places. People move furniture.
Pipes expand. Wood shifts. I shrugged it off and went back to sleep. The next night, the same thing happened. Again, at exactly 2:17 a.m. 3 knocks. Same wall, same pattern. This continued for nearly 2 weeks. Every night, 2:17 a.m., 3 knocks. Always the same. Always from the same place. Eventually, curiosity got the better of me. One afternoon, I asked my next-door neighbor if they'd been hearing anything strange. The woman looked confused. "Next door?" she said. "There isn't an apartment next to yours." I laughed, thinking she was joking. But she wasn't. She explained that the space beside my bedroom wasn't another apartment. It was a narrow maintenance corridor hidden between units. A dead space used decades ago during construction. Nobody went inside. Nobody lived there. The conversation should have reassured me. Instead, it made my stomach twist. Because if nobody was there, who was knocking? That night, I barely slept. I kept staring at the wall, waiting, listening. At 2:17 a.m., the knocking returned. Knock. 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 Only this time something else followed. A scratching sound. Slow. Deliberate. As if someone was dragging their fingernails across the other side of the wall. I sat upright immediately. The scratching continued for almost 30 seconds. Then silence. The next morning I called the landlord. He seemed annoyed but agreed to inspect the area. 2 maintenance workers arrived later that day. They opened an access panel at the end of the hallway and entered the narrow space. After a few minutes, they returned. Nothing unusual. No signs of animals. No signs of intruders. Nothing. I wanted to believe them. I really did. But something felt wrong. That night, I placed my phone against the wall and recorded audio while I slept. The next morning, I listened to the recording. At first, everything sounded normal. Hours of silence, occasional traffic outside, the hum of air conditioning. Then, at 2:17 a.m., the knocking. 3 clear knocks, louder than before. listening. And that's when I heard something that made my blood run cold. A voice. Very faint. Almost impossible to hear. A whisper. Repeating the same words over and over. Let me out. I replayed it dozens of times. The whisper never changed. Let me out. Let me out. Let me out. I convinced myself it had to be audio distortion. Some strange interference. Anything else would be impossible. But deep down, I knew what I'd heard. Over the following weeks, things got worse. Objects began moving. Small things at first. Keys appearing in different places. Cabinet doors left open. Lights turning on after I'd switched them off. Every explanation sounded ridiculous. Yet every explanation felt safer than the truth. Then one night, I woke up suddenly. No sound had awakened me. No nightmare. Nothing. Yet I was completely alert. Something felt wrong. I opened my eyes and immediately noticed the closet door. It was open. I always kept it closed. Always. A dark shape stood inside, motionless, watching me. At first I thought it was a pile of clothes. Then it moved, slowly, stepping backward into darkness, disappearing. I jumped from bed and switched on every light in the apartment. The closet was empty. Nothing there. No hiding place. No explanation. For the first time since moving in, I felt genuinely afraid. The next day, I purchased a small inspection camera online. If someone was somehow entering through the maintenance corridor, I was going to find out. When the camera arrived, I waited until night. At around midnight, I removed a floor vent near my bedroom wall. Carefully, I pushed the camera into the darkness. Dust. Pipes. Wooden beams. Nothing unusual. I moved deeper. The camera turned slightly. And then I saw an eye. A human eye. Staring directly into the lens. I screamed and yanked the camera back. My heart pounded so hard I thought I might pass out. For several minutes, I sat frozen on the floor, unable to move, unable to think. Eventually, I called the police. Officers arrived within 20 minutes. They searched the corridor thoroughly. And this time, they found something. A hidden sleeping area. Blankets. Food containers. Water bottles. Flashlights. Someone had been living inside the walls. For how long? Nobody knew. The officers eventually located the man hiding near an unused section of the building. He was arrested immediately. The entire situation felt surreal, terrifying, but at least it was over. Or so I thought. A week later, an officer asked me to come to the station. There were questions regarding evidence collected from the hidden area. Specifically photographs. Hundreds of photographs. Images of tenants sleeping, eating, watching television, living their lives, without ever realizing they were being watched. The officer showed me several photographs of my apartment. My skin crawled. Some had been taken while I slept, others while I worked on my laptop. One picture showed me standing in the kitchen, completely unaware. But then, I saw something strange. A photograph dated 3 years before I moved into apartment 307. The officer assumed it was a mistake, until I looked closer. The room in the picture was my bedroom. Same layout,
Same window, same wall. And lying on the bed was me. The problem? 3 years earlier, I had lived in another state. I had never visited this building, never entered this apartment, never even heard of it. Yet there I was, sleeping peacefully. The timestamp had been verified. The photograph was authentic. Nobody could explain it. I left the station feeling sick. For days, I barely slept. Eventually, I moved out, found another apartment, started rebuilding my life. And for a while, things seemed normal again. Then one evening, I noticed something. A small scratch on my bedroom wall. 3 parallel lines. Exactly the same height as the vent in apartment 307.
At first, I ignored it. Then another appeared, and another. Each morning, there were more. 3 scratches. Always 3. One night, I woke up at exactly 2:17 a.m. The room was silent, dark, still. Then, I heard it. Knock. 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 Coming from inside my wall. I sat frozen, unable to breathe. The knocking continued. Slow, deliberate, patient. Then a whisper. The same whisper from years ago. Only now it sounded clearer, closer, almost beside my ear. Let me out. I turned on the light. The sound stopped instantly. But something caught my attention. The closet door. It was open. And inside, nailed to the back wall, was a photograph. The same photograph from the police station. The one that should have been locked away. The one nobody else had access to. My hands trembled as I picked it up. And that's when I noticed something new. Something that hadn't been there before. The dark figure standing beside the bed. Its face was now visible. And the face was mine. I dropped the photograph immediately. For a moment, I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't move. The expression on that face wasn't sleeping, wasn't smiling, wasn't human. It was staring directly at the camera and grinning. The lights suddenly went out. The apartment fell into complete darkness. And from somewhere inside the wall beside me, I heard 3 knocks. Knock. 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 Then a voice. My voice. Whispering from the darkness. Finally. And that's the last thing I remember before waking up the next morning. The photograph was gone. The closet was empty. The power was working normally. Everything looked exactly as it should. Except for one thing. When I checked my phone, I found a new photograph in my gallery, taken at 2:17 a.m. A picture of me sleeping, taken from inside the wall. And standing beside my bed was someone who looked exactly like me. Smiling, watching, waiting. Because whatever was living inside apartment 307 never stayed there. It followed me home. And some nights, when I wake up suddenly at exactly 2:17 a.m., I can still hear it breathing on the other side of the wall, waiting for me to fall asleep again.